Hello everyone, main event Mike here, it's O'Riordan, here to just give my thoughts on what has been going on in this wacky world of professional wrestling the last few days actually. We've had an interesting turn of events, especially with one of the main events of WrestleMania, as WrestleMania is technically 2 weeks away. We also have, I'll be also be giving my thoughts on NXT Stand and Deliver, which took place this past Saturday, as well as give my thoughts on some of the matches I checked out in New Japan's Sakura Genesis show that also took place as well. So, in the words of Cody Rhodes, what do you want to talk about? Honestly, for me, I wanted to talk about this turn of events that has happened. I made mention of it in one of the shorts, straight reactions that I gave in the morning, and that is Pat McAfee. So Randy Orton came out for his promo on SmackDown. Cody Rhodes came out for the beatdown, but then out of nowhere, we finally found out the mystery person, which WWE for some reason just love mystery, mystery angles, hooded figures in black, and it was none other than Pat McAfee. Now I'm just going to read a transcript of what Pat McAfee said in the promo. So Pat McAfee said that he thought that the business has gone to absolute S. I'm just not going to, just whatever. Of course, the swear word wasn't muted at that time. Pat talked that Orton telling him that the business had passed some fans who loved the Attitude Era. And then they started chanting, "What if you smell?" making reference, of course, Stone Cold and The Rock. Orton was just beating up Cody with the chair. Pat then complained about 5'5" guys having 50-minute matches when Randy Orton is around. I don't know when was the last time there was a, let's say for example, 5'5" wrestlers getting 50 minutes of either a 2-hour or 3-hour weekly show, but whatever. Pat then complained about other people soiling themselves when Randy Orton is around. Pat made mention to SmackDown having the lowest audience of all time, and that they have a champion that people hate. Pat also mentioned the WrestleMania tickets being available, even though Randy Orton is involved. Yes, WWE are still struggling to sell tickets while they have Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton as the main event. Thank you for referencing that. And yeah, Pat said that the business Cody's leading is terrible, and Orton is going to save the business. The fans, of course, were still cheering Randy Orton, even though Pat McAfee was there. And look, when you say things like saving the business, it's implying that the business is not doing so well right now in terms of other things. And I think one of the angles and one of the elements of that has been the WrestleMania tickets. If you've checked, let's say for example on WrestleTix or just how the tickets have been moving, as of right now it's about 19% lower than what they usually had last year. And there's been a lot of talks about why the tickets have been dropping, or they haven't really got the same attendance as last year. One of the elements, of course, is going back to the same city as what they did for the previous WrestleMania. And that was, of course, going to bring some drawbacks. That's why you always see WrestleMania at a different city. But with WWE seeing how much money they made in Las Vegas, especially not just WWE, TKO, seeing how much money they made, that's why they wanted to go back instead of go to New Orleans, which they were originally going to do. And that's why they're going to Saudi Arabia, because the amount of money Saudi Arabia is paying WWE for WrestleMania is probably more or 10 times the amount that even Las Vegas is paying. The thing that's kind of jarring about here's the thing, Pat McAfee being added to Randy Orton, I'm not really a crazy fan of. I'm just going to be honest. And there's been a lot of talk about how people have thought about it. For the people that enjoy this and think that this is a cool angle and feel like this is fine, you're entitled to that opinion. For the people who, and there's been a lot of outrage. There's been a lot of different people speaking about the outrage of it. People think that, oh, why are people so angry of seeing this reaction? I think it's understandable. Pat McAfee was a guy who, at a time, didn't seem interested to come back to WWE, which was his words himself. And Pat McAfee in WWE wasn't terrible. I think he was a decent commentator. He wasn't a commentator that was one of my favorites, but I think he was decent at his job. He could, of course, work and wrestle, but he's known more as a commentator. He's not more known as a guy who would be involved in main event angles or just wrestlers in general. I know we had the feud with Gunther last year, but I don't think that was enough to kind of showcase that as well. Another thing that was kind of jarring about the promo is admitting that the company's bad. I don't really like that when any company does that anyway. For example, this goes back to 2018 when the I think at that time the McMahons that were around, they were admitting that the company wasn't doing so well because the ratings were dropping, the fans weren't enjoying the product, and what did they do to blame it? They blamed it all on Baron Corbin. Look, the product's bad because of Baron Corbin, not us and not the writing and not the creative and not anything. Let's blame it on Baron Corbin. W did this last year with Will Ospreay when he was trying to do the whole of restoring the feeling because they were trying to build up towards Jon Moxley losing eventually the AEW World title. And this, of course, came at the time where the ratings were lower, the attendance are lower. And just to use an example, I think any company that is admitting that business is not doing well just on the product just comes across as very like WCW Nitro Vince Russo type discussions, which I think this is just what it came across to, because not even going into the idea that WWE decided to make the choice to have Pat McAfee be the guy to be alongside Randy Orton. I'm just talking about what he said in the promo. Sure, his performance and how he gave it was effective, it was clear, it wasn't like a terrible promo, but it didn't really help the case of where WWE currently right now. You have a guy, a celebrity or a personnel that you've had in this company for a long time, literally moving like the second generation of Vince Russo, saying things like the current product sucks, the talent suck, and they're all too small. So, for example, Carmelo Hayes, I'm sorry, apparently in the words of Pat McAfee and the words of the creative team, you suck. Even though you've been the best attribute of SmackDown for the last few months, especially with the US Open Challenge, especially with how you've been defending the belt night in and night out on SmackDown, apparently you suck and they don't want you in 50-minute matches. I've never seen this guy in a 50-minute match before, but hey, whatever. and apparently their champion's just a corporate stooge and their biggest show of the year is not selling out. And for some reason, they think that this is going to be the thing that's going to get them excited and get people to buy more tickets. It's not. Now, there's been a report that this has not come from Triple H. This came from above. This came from the great Ari Emanuel, the guy above the creative, that he proposes Triple H and Triple H accepted, and this is why we're here. Look, Pat McAfee, and look, for Pat McAfee just to come out and just say what he said, I understand in theory and on paper this is done to kind of get reactions and get heel heat on Randy. But it didn't work. They were still cheering for Randy. And people have used this to say, like, let's see how this goes. Let's see how this kind of develops. I just think Randy's still going to get cheered. When you hear Randy Orton's theme song voices, the crowd cheers. When Randy Orton hits an RKO, they will cheer. Unless you're stripping any of those off of him, he's still going to get cheered. They were still cheering him even though he was leaving. They were still cheering Randy straight after that promo. So where does this go? In my opinion, this is just John Cena versus John Cena and Travis Scott all over again. Same city, same stadium. It would not surprise me if I see Jelly Roll with Cody and I see Randy align himself with Pat McAfee. And then maybe after WrestleMania, they do a mixed tag. Or they're not a mixed tag, to do a tag team match with the celebrities. And that goes into the big talking point of of the last few weeks. I saw like a poster of what was the WrestleMania poster. We saw Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns, CM Punk, Triple H, and all the main events. Now they've been replaced with all the celebrities. It's Jelly Roll, Pat McAfee, IShowSpeed, Lil Yachty. I think it was Tom Brady, maybe it wasn't. And the big talking point is the celebrities being in WWE. Look, I think celebrities being in WWE is fine because it's always been a thing that we've always seen in WWE, especially in sports entertainment, and also a bit in AEW. AEW use celebrities too. They use Big Boom AJ. They've used Ronda Rousey. They've used Shaquille O'Neal, for example. They've used celebrities. And WWE, I would say, right now, they're in the position where they're starting to use the celebrities even more. There is a way to utilize the celebrities and make it fun, and there's also a way for them to not feel like they are overtaking the show. So, for example, we've had Jelly Roll, who's been on multiple angles of SmackDown, more than any other wrestlers that are there. And this was 2 weeks ago. We've had Pat McAfee show up here. IShow Speed, which I understand the usage of IShow Speed because of him being one of the biggest streamers in the world right now. And kind of getting him involved and kind of getting the numbers up. I get that as well. You have Lil Yachty, who also even came out as well off with Trick Williams. And he actually gave a comment when people were criticizing, or I think it was just based off that poster. This is what Lil Yachty said. He said, "I understand y'all are upset, but don't try and step on my moment. I'm on a TV show. I'm on TV screen every Monday, Friday, religiously. I've been to more PLEs than most. I probably know more history than most of y'all. Who to say I don't deserve to be a part of something I loved so dearly?" I didn't really hate Lil Yachty's appearance. I thought his appearance there was fine. He was aligning himself with Trick Williams. I think WWE just needs to be a bit more careful with how they utilize the celebrities. I think where WWE as a company right now, they want to cater more to the upper class or the people that see the celebrities on a daily basis more than the actual wrestlers. And I think that could also be a problem. When you try to have more celebrities involved in the angles, it kind of takes away from you wanting to build up the next wrestlers of tomorrow. I've seen more appearances from these celebrities than your actual talent. And it makes to me to ask the question, what about the talent? What about the futures of tomorrow? How can these guys, let's say for example like a Carmelo Hayes, a Jacob Fatu, for example, or even the people that you have developing up in NXT, or the people you've just signed like a Royce Keys, formerly known as Powerhouse Hobbs, where has he been? But there is more interest from WWE to show these celebrities more than the actual talent. And I think that's where the disconnect is going. And if this was something that was really tracking towards, let's say for example, more fans, more engagement, it would reflect also in the ticket sales, which it has not shown this WrestleMania. We're 2 weeks away from WrestleMania. They're 19% down compared to last year. And their Hail Mary approach was Pat McAfee to be involved in Cody Rhodes versus Randy Orton. And possibly Jelly Roll to be involved. Because I don't think Jelly Roll will get a match at WrestleMania. He'll probably align himself with Cody Rhodes. Because Randy attacked Jelly Roll with an RKO. Pretty much deserved after that terrible World Cup song, but that's kind of just the thing. And another thing about the whole thing of like Ari Emanuel and the creative team, I think having you can play a dangerous goal here. I think the creative team and the board, like the people in charge, like the Ari Emanuels, the TKOs who own technically WWE and UFC. And the creative team, they have different goals. The creative team is looking at the long-term goal, looking at what we're going to do for this WrestleMania and the next WrestleMania and the next events ahead. For the board, there will be times when they're looking at what can we do, let's say, for example, for the short term. We saw this last year with the Elimination Chamber, where The Rock came out, and that was a big success. They were able to get more people into Chamber. This year, they're trying to see what can be the short-term goal to make sure that we can get more seats for WrestleMania in a few weeks. Let's add Pat McAfee. And in my opinion, I don't think Pat McAfee moves the needle. Sure, he's a celebrity, people know him, but I don't think that's going to be the thing that's going to push people to watch WrestleMania, in my opinion. I've kind of shared more of my feelings about the whole situation in regards to the celebrities and their involvement to an extent. And look, I understand and I get it. Why WWE need to involve these celebrities. They want to be in the mainstream. They want to be they want to have viral moments, viral things with all these celebrities. But I think it's also a thing, remember the people that are there. Remember your talent. And I feel like I've seen more of the celebrities than the actual wrestlers that you want to put over as time goes on. And I think that could also be a problem as well. I think with Pat McAfee appearing and saying what he was saying, it's just really him admitting that the product is bad right now. And you don't want to do that, you know? And for the people that will say that, let's say, for example, that, oh, people are just complaining, people are hating, they should appreciate and actually see that the WWE fans are evolving in terms of their interest, in terms of other things, or not to gatekeep. I disagree with the word gatekeep. The reason I would say, if you're going to involve these celebrities, make or try and intertwine them, make make the actual product better. I don't think adding a Pat McAfee, a Jelly Roll. I didn't really have too much of a problem with Lil Yachty's appearances, but if you're gonna add all these celebrities, make it interesting. Or make it relevant, or make it effective to the actual narrative or to the actual product of the show. I know they've also got something with Tom Brady that they've been trying to do as well, because anytime Tom Brady asks anything about WWE, he's burying them, which is clearly to try and set something up down the line. And I feel like that's the thing that WWE are more interested in. They're interested in the era of bringing more. It's almost like Triple H is going to come out of WrestleMania and say, we're not in this era anymore. We're in the celebrity era, which I don't know if that was a good Triple H impression. So I think the main focus of just the whole aspect about WWE right now is that, yes, they're trying to utilize more celebrities, or just to kind of get more people into WrestleMania. I know people were complaining about John Cena. Well, I'll say complaining about, there was thoughts about John Cena coming back as a host, which I don't have a problem with. If he's not going to wrestle, let him host. Does it seem like it was an attempt from WWE just to get more people into their seats, or get more people into for WrestleMania? Of course. If they have that access, they're going to utilize that access. But yeah, it's been an interesting weekend, just not to see too much of social media, but to see different people's reactions to what everything's been going on. My opinion, I didn't really care for the Pat McAfee segment. I don't really care for Pat McAfee to be involved in the Cody Rhodes Randy Orton storyline. I feel like you could have done a way better approach, or involved a way better option than just Pat McAfee. It just seems like WWE are just well intent to just keep utilizing celebrities in their angles when they don't really need to. I think Pat's just going to be a mouthpiece that's going to try and get more heat on Randy, but I think the crowd is still going to cheer Randy Orton, because Randy Orton has one of the more popular and more flashiest finishers in all of sports entertainment and all professional wrestling, that will always get a pop whenever he hits it. And I don't really have too much sympathy on Triple H, to be honest. You are the guy that's trying to make the storylines. You are the guy that's trying to get people excited for the show. You need to get people excited. And I know people will say that, oh, you're going to watch WrestleMania anyway. You have all these complaints, all these issues about the product, but you're still going to watch WrestleMania. I think that's kind of a deflection, just to say like, oh, you have all these complaints, but you're still going to watch. The thing is that if you support a football club, for example, let's say you support Liverpool FC, for the people who care about football, I'm not going to call it soccer. Let's say if you're a Liverpool fan, last year you just seen that your team win the Premier League. Now this season it's not going so well. Are you going to stop supporting them? No, you're going to keep supporting them no matter what, despite the situations that are going on. You have multiple things that are not going well, but you're still going to support the club. It's almost the same thing with wrestling. You're not happy with how things are going, but you're still going to watch. You're still going to do whatever. I think people, of course, will look at and will do things or complain about wrestling just to hate, and people will do that. But I think valid criticism towards the WWE product should be appreciated as well. But I also understand that criticism and also other things in wrestling can also lead to just a lot of negativity, especially in a negative side of the internet wrestling community as well. But yeah, that's just kind of my thoughts on the whole situation involving the Pat McAfee situation. I didn't want it to be a thing where I just want to just give my honest feelings after just holding everything that's been going on since Friday Night SmackDown in regards to the Pat McAfee situation, with Pat pretty much becoming the new version of Vince Russo, and just all the other things that's going on. But yeah, it's funny because we're 2 weeks out of WrestleMania. I'm kind of like, yeah, I'll be there for Mania, but it's almost like, no disrespect, the Pat McAfee thing has kind of dropped my expectations now. I have a feeling Randy Orton's going to win the title. Randy will beat Cody, because Pat said that if Randy doesn't win, you'll never see me again. That's a complete lie. We will probably see you come out with your entrance and maybe commentate in the very, very far future when you're done with this whole thing. So I could see Randy winning the title. But then heels lie. But yeah, that's just kind of my thoughts on it. But yeah, moving on. I just wanted to give my thoughts on NXT Stand and Deliver. Haven't really talked about NXT mostly on this channel, but the NXT that was before, which was the Black and Gold brand, it is completely different. It is more based on trying to build wrestlers up for the future. Of course, they would bring wrestlers, let's say, who are in the Indies or formerly in AEW to help kind of establish the brand as well. But they had their Stand and Deliver show 2 weeks before WrestleMania, not having it on the same weekend. The reason they did this is so that it can kind of provide space, because that whole weekend there's a lot of shows. You would have SmackDown, you would have the Hall of Fame, you would have NXT straight after, and probably for Booker T's sake that happened, because I remember last year where there was literally clips of Booker T conked to sleep, and then man had to commentate an NXT show after. He needed to sleep, so I hear it. But yeah, I overall thought this was a good show. I really enjoyed NXT Stand and Deliver. I thought the NXT Women's Championship match, which had it had JC Jane defending her title against Lola Vice and Kindle Gray. JC Jane has had a really good year. Last year where you wouldn't really have expected the year that she would have had, being a multi-time NXT Women's Champion, winning the TNA Knockouts Championship as well. And she's really been one of the strong holders in the NXT Women's division. Kindle Gray was someone who was in WWE Evolve and has actually kind of made some noise in terms of getting the attention of one Dave Meltzer, who made a comment saying that Kindle Gray will be the best women's wrestler in the United States in the foreseeable future. I know he kind of tried to cause an issue by saying, oh, she's already better than Mercedes Moné even with a small limited time, which I disagree with that, but I do see the potential in Kindle Gray. I think she is very, very talented. She's only 23/24. And then you have Lola Vice, who's someone who I would actually say has been improving vastly. Someone who actually has seen her MMA background, or seen her in Bellator, for example, and has seen her transition into WWE. I think she's transitioned pretty well. And this was a really good triple threat match where we saw a lot of things going on. Of course, there was alludes to, of course, the match between Kindle Gray and Lola Vice on NXT television, where there was a double pinfall or double finish angle where they wanted to force a triple threat. We also saw the involvement of Fatal Influence, but then as soon as Fatal Influence was gone, JC Jane was now, of course, struggling to think, how am I going to keep this championship? But after a melee of different moves, Lola Vice was able to get the victory and become the new NXT Women's Champion. Congrats to her. I think there's going to be a time where Kindle Gray will eventually win that championship. But I think this is now a time to kind of give it with Lola Vice, because she has had multiple opportunities for that title. This even goes back to the Roxanne Perez title reign. So congrats to her. She'll hold on to the belt for a bit. I could definitely see, like I said, Kindle Gray going for it. And shout out to Kindle Gray. I think she's got very, very high potential, especially in WWE. I don't know if she'll be one of the popular wrestlers, like let's say a Rhea Ripley, a Charlotte Flair, or those. But in ring, as the years will go by, I think this is someone that WWE will have very high potential on. So yeah, I really, really enjoyed that match. Then we had the Vanity Project versus Los Americanos, which were Bravo Americano and Rayo Americano. The Los Americanos are pretty much Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate in masks, but this was a good match. I haven't seen too much of the Vanity Project, but I thought this was a good match. I have to give a shout out to El Grande Americano, aka Ludwig Kaiser. I think he's taking this gimmick and just hitting a home run with it, and I feel like he's just taking Chad Chable's chain. And I thought the match was good. It was fun. Cool little match. And the Vanity Project were able to retain their titles. Then we had the grudge match of the standard stand and deliver grudge match. We've seen it with the likes of a Johnny Gargano versus Tommaso Ciampa, a Kyle O'Reilly, Adam Cole, Carmelo Hayes versus Trick Williams, and now we've seen it with Sol Ruka and Zarya. Sol Ruka got the win. I thought the match was a good physical match. It was a grudge match, of course. Sol Ruka came straight into her entrance and went after Zarya. Very surprised to see Sol Ruka win. I thought Zarya would need the win here, because despite the heel turn, despite the betrayal to Sol Ruka, Zarya hasn't really won as much, so it's interesting to see that Sol got the victory here. But and even to see maybe they wanted to see a way to kind of protect her, or protect Zarya to an extent, with Zarya, of course, taking two Sol snatches and actually kicking out at the time. But Sol got the win. it'll be interesting to see how this feud continues now, or if it will. After during the show, Sol Ruka was talking to I forget her name, Izzy Dame, as well. So that's something that could pursuing, or maybe they will still continue the feud with Zarya. Miles Bourne defended his NXT North American Championship against Johnny Gargano. Johnny Gargano, for some reason, loves sleeping on boxes. He just loves sleeping everywhere. But they're trying to tell the story that Johnny Gargano is just sad, depressed, and Candice LeRae is trying to build him up. This has been on SmackDown and it's transitioned into NXT. The match was solid. It was a solid match, and it was a way for Miles Bourne to get a big win on just an established NXT alumni or WWE to an extent alumni in Johnny Gargano. So I thought that match was good. He was attacked by that one guy from Dark State. I think it's his last name is Lennox, and there was a little bit of a promo where you could see that potentially Dark State could have issues, but maybe they're all patched up at the end. Tatum Paxley defended her NXT Women's Championship against Blake Monroe. The story is that Blake Monroe just took a belt, not giving it, stole it. But this was a good match. I've been really impressed with Tatum Paxley in the ring. I know she had a very good match with Izzy Dame on the last PLE at Vengeance Day, and I've been really impressed with Tatum Paxley in the ring. Blake Monroe, we know of, formerly known of Mariah May, we know her work. I do think that her booking in NXT has been a bit inconsistent, but I feel like it won't be too long until we see Blake Monroe on the main roster, potentially in 2026. It seems like that she could be doing something with the Vanity Project, so we'll see how that goes there. And then we ended with the main event. It was Tony D'Angelo, Joe Hendry, Ricky Saints, and Ethan Page in a fatal four-way for the NXT Championship. Tony D'Angelo made his return to NXT in a new gimmick, which I was pretty happy with, because going into like the Italian mob boss gimmick has such a lifespan that I don't know if it would have transitioned well on the main roster. So him coming with this new gimmick kind of taking it all off, which was actually a really good move. And I think everyone in this match had motivations. Of course, Joe Hendry being the NXT champion, and we've also seen in the past NXT shows that Ricky Saints and Ethan Page have had this friendship where they're both trying to become NXT champions. And it played into the story. First off, Ricky and Ethan beating up Joe Hendry and trying to go for Tony D'Angelo, but then Tony and Joe going after both of them. There was even during the match where Ethan and Ricky were both trying to get pinfalls, like both with each other, so that's also a thing as well. And there was even times when they were going at each other as well, and I thought the ending spot of it, where it seems like they were trying to put Joe Hendry through the announce table, but then out of nowhere, Tony D'Angelo hits a double spear on both Ricky Saints and Ethan Page to clear them out, and then he goes for Joe Hendry to get the victory and to become the new NXT champion. Which, congratulations to Tony D'Angelo. He's been someone who's been in NXT for such a long period of time. I think he's been there since 20... How long is he? Yeah, since I think since 20... Just want to double check. 2022. Or maybe 2021. And for someone who's been in NXT for a period of time and who's seen how wrestlers have gone, like a Braun Breaker, a Carmelo Hayes, a Trick Williams, an Obafemi, where he's technically been in that era and generation of NXT. It's cool that he's got a gimmick now, and now they're going to push on with this run with the NXT Championship. So, congrats to Tony D'Angelo, and yeah, I would definitely recommend NXT Stand and Deliver. I really enjoyed the show. The show ranged from good to very good matches overall. On the opening show, we had Shawn Michaels and Sexy Red come out, another celebrity. But it was fine. I saw the Instagram post where they were kind of alluding to the whole Shawn Michaels meme that's been going around on social media, so that was funny to an extent. What wasn't great is that she came out in her hometown and no one cared and gave a reaction. So yeah, but I'll give thumbs up to NXT Stand and Deliver. Next, I'm going to talk about Sakura Genesis. Just talk a little bit on Sakura Genesis that I was able to check out. This show, New Japan Sakura Genesis, which took place in Tokyo, Japan. Going to give some thoughts. Will Ospreay made his return to the show with the United Empire, with the Great Okan and Hanari. They were facing wrestlers such as Taichi and El Desperado. Match was cool, cool match. It was cool just to see Will Ospreay and Taichi go back and forth. And it's kind of the typical New Japan six-man tag match style, but Ospreay was able to get the win, but there was also some complications or like frustrations, as Will Ospreay's technically a babyface, but this version of the United Empire are kind of operating as a heel faction. Sure, years back when Will Ospreay was a heel in New Japan, he would probably do the things he's doing, but of course he's a changed man coming from AEW, so that was something interesting to play off as we got into the main event of the show. Konosuke Takeshita defended his New Japan World Television Championship against Shota Umino, ended in a time limit draw, which kind of didn't surprise me, and it feels like we will eventually go to a rematch. A match that I really enjoyed was for the tag team, IWGP Tag Team Championships. You had the Knockout Brothers, who I'm not too familiar with, defending their belts against Zack Sabre Jr. and Ryoshi Alawa. I probably messed up. Mercy, apologies. Please, I'm not a fraud. But I really enjoyed this match. One of the guys, I think it was Yoto Ice, it seemed like they did this spot where it seemed like his arm was completely dislocated, and I really loved the selling of what he was doing. It was just a back and forth hardcore match. I mean, hardcore tag team match where the selling was on point. Zack Sabre Jr., as you know, one of the best British technician wrestlers out there, and just really loved the physicality, the selling, the tag team interchanging of both teams, but the Knockout Brothers were able to get the victory, and I really enjoyed this tag match. Definitely would recommend this as well. We got to the main event, which I'll talk about, which was Callum Newman facing Yota Tsuji for the IWGP Heavyweight Championship. Callum Newman, who won the New Japan Cup earlier on in the year, was facing Yota Tsuji in this match. And there's also some storytelling here where he actually had Will Ospreay on his side, someone that he has known for such a long period of time. Probably even at the time when Will Ospreay was on his way to leave New Japan to go to AEW, he shouted out Callum Newman. But Callum Newman has kind of gone to a path which isn't similar with Will Ospreay. I know there was even an angle when Will Ospreay made his return where it seemed like Callum Newman was going to hit him with the chair, but the Great O'Khan and the guys kind of stopped him. But as the match was continuing, Will Ospreay was even encouraging Callum Newman not to win that way, win one-on-one with the right call and the right spirit, even though Callum technically cheated to win. But really enjoyed this main event. Both of these guys were great. I've been really enjoying Yota Tsuji this year. He's had some fantastic matches. If it was the match with Takeshita back at Wrestle Kingdom, the match with Andrade, and back at the New Japan show in the US. And here's another one as well. But it was Callum Newman's day, as he has become the new IWGP Heavyweight Champion, the youngest champion in the company's history, surpassing the likes of Shinsuke Nakamura, who was the youngest champion at the time. And it's going to be interesting to see Callum Newman with this belt, especially him being the youngest champion. It's clear that they're trying to build this guy up to be, let's say, the new Will Ospreay, well, the next version of a Will Ospreay, or the next Gaijin. Will he reach the levels of, let's say, how huge a Kenny Omega or Will Ospreay or a Jay White was in terms of Gaijins for New Japan? Who knows? But yeah, I really enjoyed the main event. Straight after, one of the guys got pile drivered, and it was Gabe Kidd coming out in an AEW shirt, which is kind of hilarious because all those, I remember a year back, I remember when it was like FWWE, FAEW, Koto Ishiba, and now he's doing, but it's fair. And then he actually went after Yota Tsuji, and he looked like he's going to go after Yota Tsuji's other championship, which is the Global Championship. Next. Then we also had Shingo Takagi coming out to pretty much say that I'm coming for that belt next, Callum, just remember me. But yeah, I from what I saw from the show, it seems like it was a really good show. The matches that I really enjoyed was, of course, the IWGP Tag Team Championship match. The main event between Yota Tsuji and Callum Newman was great too. But yeah, definitely recommend watching New Japan Sakura Genesis if you do get the time. There's also alternatives of course, that you can enjoy too. But yeah, just wanted to do a video, just kind of giving my thoughts on WWE's celebrity. Well, is it a crisis? Do they view it as a crisis? Probably not. And also just give my thoughts on NXT Stand and Deliver, and also Ascari Genesis, some shows that I was able to watch, or matches I was able to watch during the weekend. Do let me know and give your thoughts on the whole celebrity or the whole WWE issue right now in terms of the interest for WrestleMania. I think people are excited for WrestleMania. It's just, is there more of a focus on the celebrities than the actual talents? Are you excited? Are people genuinely excited to see Pat McAfee and Jelly Roll here? I'm intrigued to hear the comments of people who are excited and just to engage as well. Because there isn't WrestleMania you're always going to be interested and excited for, but I kind of feel like the builds have been kind of there. But yeah, comment below. Let me know what you guys think. Of course, like, comment, just keep how things are going in general. Hopefully there will be some videos made as well with myself and Billy in regards to things heading into the mode for WrestleMania, as we are very, very close to there. It seems like we've got a Monday Night Raw that's not going to have the likes of a Roman Reigns or a Brock Lesnar, as they will be returning for the last week. But we also have AEW Dynasty, which will be taking place this Saturday or Sunday? I think it's Sunday. Oh my God, AEW pay-per-view on a Sunday. I pray for the strength to get through that pay-per-view. I'm not gonna watch it live, so why am I praying? But yeah, those have been my thoughts. I've been O'Riordan from Main Event Mic'd. Don't know when this is going to be uploaded, but hopefully everyone has had a blessed Easter weekend, and we'll catch up later.